Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about how we live in a Greco-Roman, sort of Babylonian theocratic state, right? The separation of the Christian church and the nation, to some degree, has been there. But the separation of the Greco-Roman deities, right, hasn't been there. And behind every Greco-Roman deity is a demon, okay? If you think about it, right? Behind Aphrodite, who's a pagan witch, who's a deity of so-called love, pagan love, is the demon Asmodeus, who's a demon of lust, okay? Same with Eros and Psyche, right? And so when we look at the situation, we look at the system that we have here in America. It's clearly a rape by deception system. Now bear with me. There's also forcible rapes and sexual assaults in their various forms, right? So let's look at the case of child molestation. Let's try to wrap our mind around this, right? So I threw out some numbers, about 330 million people in America. I estimate about 80 million children or so, throwing a number out there, give or take. And we see that somewhere around 16.5 million children that are alive right now have either been sexually molested before the age of 18, will be, okay, or are being. So I made a little statement for you to help you understand, because I know these things can be a bit confusing. Romantic injustice causes a little less than 1 million children to be born destined to be sexually molested before the age of 18 every year. Many will be sexually molested more than once, and right now there are 16.5 million children that have been, or are being, or will be, sexually molested before the age of 18. This is part of the fruit of rebellion against universal pinpointing moral precision. For those of you who are monotheistic, that means rebellion against God, right? It says in the Bible that people chose to be evil because their deeds were evil, right? Rebellion by your actions. We also see in the Bible, it says in Matthew 5, verse 20, that if your righteousness doesn't surpass the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, that you certainly, the word certainly is used in the New International Version, you certainly won't enter the kingdom of heaven, right? So you have to be righteous and have righteous acts, right? But that's not the system we have, right? The system we have, the output of it is somewhere around probably about 20 million child molesters are alive right now, right? Because a lot of these people who have been molested, they've been molested more than once. Now, granted, some of them are molested by people their age, but a lot of them aren't, okay? I've heard stories of people molested by their stepfather, their brother, okay, an older guy they were dating, what have you, okay, their gym teacher, all in the same lifetime, right? All the same person. So, as we look at this system, right, do we see a spirit of moral precision or decency, or do you see this outrageous amount of child molestation? Okay, 1 in 4 females are sexually molested before the age of 18. The most reliable statistic I found on it said that. And the most reliable statistic I found on little boys being molested said 1 in 6 little boys is sexually molested before the age of 18. That is an enormous amount of child molestation. And just like with rape, right, they tend to point to, minorities or something. But most of the rapes are being done by, whites, Jews, LGBT people, right? And, well, really whites and Jews, rather, and LGBT people kind of disproportionately molest children. But again, one could argue that the gap isn't so great. I found conflicting information on that, and I don't want to get into that particular detail in this video. You should know that I do think that there's a huge problem with child molestation in the LGBT community, but for the sake of being diplomatic and people not being mature enough to handle the facts on that, I'm not going to go into detail more on that issue. Okay, but I do think it's fair to kind of hint at what the situation is there. Okay. So, when you look at how many females are raped in college, right, after they're 18, how many are sexually molested before the age of 18, when you look at the fact that people marry based on the construct, right, a con man, construct, right, confidence, consent, the consented, it's clear. It's also interesting when we see some other wordplay, incidentally, right, the wordplay for the word delusion is a play on words for you shun deal and you shun lead, right? The DEL becomes LED, led or lead. using the sounds and phonetics. And the SIONS at the end becomes the word shuns, right? Delusions, right? You shun lead. You shun the natural alpha, right? Illusion. Ill, you shun. You're ill, so you're shunning him. And the word fantasies, you have the word Satan scrambled in it. And Satan if sees. So if sees fantasies, right? If you see things in terms of fantasies, the psychological construct, your career instead of the worth of somebody, that you're a Satanist. Right? Even the word live is evil spelled backwards. The word saved is divas scrambled. The word part is trap spelled backwards, and so on and so forth. Or advice, right? Ad, second word being vice. And friend, fry, end. And hello. Right? Hostile, right? Who's your host? It's hostile, right? Host, L-E. And Luciferian, right? Luciferi, right? Fantasies, fairy, and Luciferian. Pharisees, fairy. If you think all that's a coincidence, then you lost your mind. And of course, you see the wordplay in the words in the home and house, right? Home-me and house, ho-use. And you have the wordplay in the word meal, me-lay, and grub, G-rub, and food, faux-do, and faux-odd, and so on and so forth. And AIDS, the word AIDS is said scrambled. What do they say in regards to this? Well, I don't have AIDS, and if I did, you're better off dating me than the people who are tricking you and your families, in an organized manner into marrying based on, social norms instead of the content of the character and what's right and fair and just. Tricking your brain so you're attracted to people you would otherwise be, with psychology and chemicals in the food and other various technologies that they have, some that you would have trouble believing. These are monsters in the spirit of molesting, have molested. Okay, they're in the spirit of the facts I read earlier about the 16.5 million children that have been, are being, or will be sexually molested before the age of 18. They're in the spirit of doing that. They're in the spirit of mass murder and all this stuff. Why would you want to be married in that spirit? So one of the biggest, I think, cons in human history, write this down. I really want you to write this down. I want you to put it on your wall. Print it out. Make it so it's clear so anyone who sees it on your wall or put it on your website can see it. The biggest con that I see going on here, perhaps the biggest con, it's up there somewhere, one of the biggest cons, is convincing people to have relationships and to be married in the spirit of complicity with mass murder, mass rape, mass child molestation, mass drugging, mass lying, mass idolatry, mass assault, etc. That's the biggest kind of evil that is out there. When you zoom in on it, it seems to be the most evil thing, and it's not a coincidence they're fuming me right now and making it harder for me to speak. Not a coincidence. Even the word brain is a play on words for be, evil, in. Ra in Hebrew means evil, and the prophets told the Jews, woe to you who call you who call good evil and evil good. Because Ra in Egyptian mythology was the word for God as symbolized by the sun. Okay, and the sun is also the symbol of the bridegroom in the Bible in Psalm 19. And you see Malachi, the sun in righteousness, the bright morning star, which can reference the sun. It can also reference a star that is Lucifer trying to superimpose himself on the true bright morning star, which is the sun, which is also considered a star at times, right? There's a controversy historically whether the sun is a star or a planet or what it is. So yeah, right now you should have a pretty good feel as to why I'm right. If we do not live in a Greco-Roman theocracy, right, a religious state, then why are there so many Greek societies in college, okay, when the Greek philosophy comes to them from Greek cults, Greek corporations, Greek guilds, Greco-Roman guilds, right, Greek frats and Freemasonry is very much modeled after Greco-Roman thinking. In fact, the Greeks were the first people to interpret the Bible. But which side is more pronounced? According to the Bible, it's the pagan side, right? Satan leads the whole world astray. In Revelations, it says that. Also, we see that rape is common, and I can't think of a single marriage besides my parents of two people who have a very good understanding of what it means to be married and what skill you should use to be married. Okay? And that has paganism written all over it. The word pagan is a play on words for pagan and app and gay and so on and so forth. And we see that, you see the Republicans, Ted Cruz look gayish, Donald Trump looks gayish, Lindsey Graham, it's in both parties. It's everywhere you look, people look gayish. They even edit my pictures to make them look gayish. Now, I'm not saying this so people bash the gay community. I'm saying this so you understand what's going on here, whether you're gay or not. Okay? If you're doing something wrong that's bad for you, the people who are trying to get you to change course are the ones trying to help you, not the people who are encouraging you to keep doing what you're doing, whether you're straight or gay or anything else. It's sad that there are people that want me to be quiet about these things. Okay? But it's not good to be quiet about these things. You know why? There's 16.5 million children right now that have been raped, will be raped, or have been sexually assaulted, will be sexually assaulted, or are being sexually assaulted. They're alive right now. 1 million of them are born every year. Okay, a little less than 1 million. Because people don't stand firm for what's right. They don't say, that's wrong and this is what we can do. This is exactly what we can do. Instead, they say, oh, that's sad. Or, man, if I see anybody, I'll do the X, Y, and Z to them. But that's not the optimum way to address it. That's a brute, ignorant, sheeple's way to address it. Instead of actually addressing it strategically, logically, and effectively. I hope that you can agree that anyone who tries to stop me from getting this video out or stop me from addressing it strategically, logically, and effectively, even if it causes the end of the world, okay, is completely in the wrong and is evil as hell. So what I ask Americans right now, are we not all better off having our flesh killed than living in a society where 16.5 million children that are alive right now, 16.5 million of the 80 million or so here in America, have been sexually assaulted, are being sexually assaulted, or will be sexually assaulted, and people are responding like a bunch of bitches instead of effectively responding? Is it really worth living in a nation like that, on a planet like that? Is it really worth it? Are you not better off dead than being there, with a poker face, so to speak, than being there only addressing it as controlled opposition, which is not addressing it at all? The people who are doing this are the spirits of the governing class who operate behind the scenes and who control the cultures, including whatever culture you're in. It's indirectly or directly controlled by governing class people. For example, the skating culture, picking a random culture. Who markets their goods to them? Who are their celebrities and why? Now compare that to Donald Trump's culture. It's directly, MAGA fans are directly controlled by Donald Trump, basically. So there's direct control, and there's the indirect control that the governing class exerts over skaters, for example, or thugs for that matter, etc. Thugs with no higher cause. Corporate people with no higher cause. It's every culture out there but mine, because my culture isn't a culture. My kingdom is not of this world. It's universal, pinpointed moral precision. You can call it a culture. It's a cultivative process, but it's not. It's an idea that I live. It's the Spirit of God.